to the next episode of Just Peachy. My name is Peachie Thompson, and I'm your host. Just Peachy is a show where we interview leaders and subject matter experts in the fields of insurance, finance, and taxes. We also have a lifestyle section where we talk about everything and anything under the sun. And today's speaker, I'm so excited to introduce him to you because we are going to talk about flow. An expert in the flow is the director of partnerships at XY Planning Network, Mr. Jordan Hutchinson. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Jordan, I am so excited to talk about flow and introduce you to our listeners and viewers. Would you please help me introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you?
Yeah, so I started in the financial advisory business, kind of fell into it. I was finishing undergrad and fell into when I was looking at MBA programs or master's programs, had no idea what I wanted to do with an undergrad in psychology. There wasn't a lot of choices. And so I actually found the financial planning program at the University of Alabama, loved it so much, got my master's there, and actually started teaching there as a graduate assistant. And went into the industry straight after that and moved through different facets of the industry, found myself in the fintech space, and then actually ended up here at XY working closely with Michael and Alan and Maddie Roche, the team on the member success team on strategy for advisors, what technology are they using, what education are they getting for their practice for their employees. So that's a quick little run through of it, but in that phase, I actually started my doctorate too because I started working with a behavioral wealth management firm that really pushed me to stretch what the industry was evolving to on the human behavior side. So it's been fun and very rewarding.
Wow. So you covered a lot there. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, right? So you started with psychology,
Hmm.
right? And you also have experience teaching, and then you went into deep dive financial planning.
Right.
And my understanding is also you've had your own client base.
Correct.
So now you're at XY Planning Network. So I think I should ask you, did you or do you miss doing what you've done as far as being client facing, and now you're mostly in the back and supporting those financial advisors who are client facing?
Right. Yeah, I do a little bit. So I definitely I miss working with my great clients and just seeing the impact of making very purposeful decisions, hitting their goals. All those things were great, and just making a difference. It really was very impactful to me as an advisor, just getting to see positive change from our clients, and I really love that. That was a big passion of mine. I do remember the moment whenever I felt like I want to do more and I wanted to actually work with advisors. And when I was starting to train advisors, I felt a real strong passion that I could help a lot of advisors. And so, where I learned the hard way, I could teach them things that I had to learn the hard way, but I could teach them that behavioral side. And so, I really enjoyed working with advisors. So, the transition going from working directly with clients to now working with advisors, it was a big shift, but and I miss some of my great clients, and like I know many of
Yeah.
our advisor friends and the listeners, I don't miss some of the difficult clients, but I
Oh,
think they can
sure.
empathize with me. But
Oh, yeah.
I definitely enjoy what I'm doing now by working with advisors. So it's been a good transition.
I am happy to hear that. So happy for you. So it's so nice to find your little place under the sun anytime, right? And your background suits serving financial advisors and helping them and the whole nine yards. So this show is basically I'm trying to make it easy for people to understand what we're doing. And I know we're going to talk about flow, but you mentioned XY planning, I mentioned XY planning.
Right.
Maybe you can just kind of tell us a little bit about XY planning. What is it that XY Planning Network does? What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, so XY Planning Network is a great organization. I mean, of course, I work there, but I do believe even when I wasn't there, they were doing great things. XY Planning was founded by Alan Moore and Michael Kitces a little over 7 years ago. And it was founded in the idea that a lot of these advisors were leaving their firms and wanting to start fee only practices, but there wasn't anyone giving them the tools to start that practice because, like both of us know very well, that it becomes pretty expensive and it's difficult to get all the required technology, the compliance,
Yeah.
everything that goes into it that you lose when you leave a larger independent broker dealer or just the broker dealer side. And so they founded and built all of that and aggregated it so that with your monthly membership, you get access to all the tools that you need to start your practice. And you get access to someone to help you get your ADV started and submitted, get you registered with the state or with the SEC, all those things that you didn't really have to fool with as much when you were under the big umbrella, you now have to do yourself as a business owner. And it's I've seen it be so rewarding to advisors that get to have that practice that they always wanted. And so XY Planning they're actually based out of Bozeman, Montana. About half of the company's up there, and then the rest of us are all over the country. But yeah, we have 1,600 advisors or 1,600 members now, and we're all over the country and growing pretty quickly. Just with monthly growth, it's pretty insane how many advisors are jumping to that entrepreneurial ship and starting their own practice from scratch.
Fantastic. And if I were thinking of going independent, if I were
Right.
an advisor and I want to be independent, how refreshing is that to know that I can go to an organization that will pretty much help me build my own practice. So that's huge. So let's talk about flow, Jordan.
Sure.
First and foremost, what is flow?
Yeah, I always tell people flow, and I give the academic one so that I feel some credibility of my fellow academic friends, so they know that I'm not just this savvy financial guy. That I actually have some credibility behind me. I say that with a joke, but the so flow states and flow theory is the optimal experience that is a state of deep absorption in an activity that is intrinsically motivating with defined goals and is enjoyable. So that big academic definition, what that is truly being in the zone. So whenever you're doing a task or an activity, a lot of people will probably experience it initially when they come to mind is, playing a sport or doing some kind of leisure activity. When you're being in the zone, you lose track of time. So that's some of the early research on it was found with elite athletes. And so for me, being a prior basketball player, of course, I'm a fan of Michael Jordan. He's many times
Oh.
been said that, he was just in the zone. And that's exactly what flow is.
So being in the zone, I love it. I didn't know that you were a basketball player. So I also love Michael Jordan and I love watching the guy, and it makes sense that he is in the zone every time he was doing those cool stuff. Now, if I were listening to us, like how do I get in the flow? I'm a financial advisor, or let's say I want to play basketball, right?
Right.
So how how do I get in that zone so that I'm rocking it and I'm killing it?
Right. Yeah, and that's hopefully what I plan to do over the next few years is how does flow theory go into financial planning? And because it seems like, oh, this is sports, that's great and wonderful, but like, why would I care as a financial advisor? And
Yeah.
so I look at it in two ways. And so currently my research is on financial planners, so actually the advisor. And so I'm looking at how it is in their career. So if it's dealing with, they have more experience because we have a lot of transition career changers in the financial planning, but I'm looking at how they're doing it. So is it when they're in their sales opportunity, or are they actually doing it when they're deep into a plan and they've built their own spreadsheet or they're in that financial planning software, or is it when they're giving that presentation to clients? So really understanding where you are at your best and how can you either outsource or hire somebody that can fulfill some of those things that you're not really engaged in and at your best. And so a lot of our advisors at XY, they are what we'd call, a boutique or a lifestyle practice where they want to get to a certain level, but they don't want to grow this huge enterprise firm. And so they really want to have the practice that gives them the time that they can do what they want, that makes them most fulfilled. And so what can they outsource? And so when you're getting in that flow state, you're really doing what you're great at, and you're hitting that's challenging to you and you're really good at it. So they call it the challenge skill um, graph, where you get that right into the flow channel. And so that's where, from the advisor perspective, I'm looking at it. On the client side, the way that I've been studying it and worked, actually tested it out with some clients, is when you go through these transitions in life. For example, retirement is an easy one, or you are changing jobs, or you're moving. You have this new identity that changes. So now you're no longer executive or CEO of a company. The joke I make is, you're no longer executive, you're just the third person in line at Starbucks. So you don't have that same identity anymore because it's changed. You've transitioned and you're a new person. So how are you focusing on finding those flow experiences in your life? Because maybe work was a flow experience. You
Right.
loved what you did. You were really good at it, but now you have a different day. It's less rigid and structured. You need to find those things that give you fulfillment and that you're really good at, and that's all the benefits of flow. There's so many positive happiness and fulfillment benefits that come from having those flow experiences.
So let's talk about the advisor piece. So there's really two pieces there that you mentioned. So the
Sure.
first one is what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Right.
is let's find my unique genius, right? Let's find my unique genius and outsource what is something that I don't like. Or maybe, it's quite challenging for me and I don't want to waste my time doing it, right?
Right.
So that is what I heard you say. Now, what would you say to someone who is very good at everything, but not necessarily great at one thing? Now, because now they're gonna say, "Or Jordan, how do I find my unique genius? I'm so good at these five things."
Right. Yeah, so that's a unique person. I would congratulate them first, because that is impressive, because I am definitely on the other end of that spectrum, where there are things that I love to do and there are things that I do because I have to do it. But when I was an advisor, it was definitely compliance. I understand the
Mm.
importance of it, and we have to have it in industry, just because we all know the stories of all the poor advisors and the ones that have done terrible things to clients. So I'm
Mhm.
okay with that we have to do it. It's just it's not intrinsically rewarding to me. And
Mm.
so for that aspect, if it was a person that just was great at everything and enjoyed it, I would spend some time talking to them. I would, I have a list of questions that sometimes I go through with advisors, helping them figure out where they're truly passionate about and figure out what goal they have. So if they're an advisor and they're great at all this, but they are, let's say they're really wanting to grow their AUM, or they're wanting to get more clients, however you want to frame it, um, what would be the best thing for you to do to get there? Maybe doing compliance or doing your marketing. You could do it, and you could do it well because you're a very intelligent person, but maybe that's not where your time is best well spent. And
That's
so
right.
outsource that to somebody that's their expertise and they love doing it, so um, that's how I would frame it if I was working with someone. Because actually, XYPN, I find that more frequent than not, that there are advisors that they're intelligent enough and they're amazing enough that they could do it all themselves, but you pay
Right.
a little bit more, and you could easily make up for that, where you're spending more time with your clients, you're getting more referrals, you're getting all those things to grow the practice that you truly dream of.
Right. I totally understand. So there's this book that I read many years ago. It's called Good to Great. I'm sure you've read of it, where, if you are good at something, if you're good at something, it's very hard to get to being great if you're just in the always good level,
Hmm.
right? So it's to me it's like that, where okay, I can do this, like you said, you're intelligent enough to do it, but is that really the best use of your time? So if I were an
Right.
advisor, I'm thinking, now how do I find what's the best use of my time? And I heard you say, let's talk about what your goal is, where you want to be, and then let's align that and see if we can cultivate what it is that is your unique genius and outsource
100%.
the other stuff to someone who is really really passionate about that particular subject. And yeah, compliance, oh my goodness, a lot of my advisors definitely are not compliance friendly, but I do have some friends as well who love compliance. So
Right.
yeah, yeah, totally. And now let's pivot a little bit here and talk about the client side. We have a lot of those clients where they were very successful, they were in the flow, and that's why as a result of that, they became successful and built empires in their own way.
Right.
And now they have a little bit of change because they retired or maybe something happened down the road. Now they've lost themselves and trying to find that flow or something that they're passionate about. What would you say to a financial advisor who is helping clients in those stages?
Yeah. So the way that looking at flow, you can look at it in so many different ways. It could be transitions just through life, and that's something that's I'm excited about. That a lot of the XYPN advisors, they have, what I call a barbell, where they'll work with the retiree or the pre-retiree, but then they've created a fee for service model where they can work with both sides. So they can charge maybe a retainer fee or some other structure instead of just an AUM model. So they can work with younger people, because I feel like, and of course I've validated some of this with research, but there's so many transitions you go through in life. You have kids, you maybe get married, you might get divorced. All these things are very difficult. And if you have somebody that you can lean into, which is an advisor, to help you through those transitions, a lot of you can really reflect and try to find flow in each of those moments, because a lot of those times are difficult conversations. Yes, maybe the end goal, both parties might be happy with a divorce. Yes, but I'll tell you, as an advisor who went through divorce with clients, it was grueling on myself as an advisor, because it was, especially younger in my career, the first time it happened, I was like a deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to
Oh,
do, and
sure.
so understanding those moments of transition and helping your client find, you can literally start it with just basic questions of, where do you find fulfillment, or where do you find the most energy in your life? Like, where do you feel at your best? And it could be work, it could be whatever it is, but just starting with opening that conversation. I always say that that's a great way to deepen the relationship with a client, is finding those big moments and helping them through those moments. And so that's why I love that there's so many transitions you go through in the younger stage. And I think that the retirement is very, we see the pictures of, being on a golf course or walking on the beach holding hands, those are great. But at the same time, you can't do that every day. And there's so much
All
more.
right.
And so just starting that conversation can be impactful. You don't have to have a huge process. You don't have to have the whole tools that I've built and I'm working on to build. You don't need all that. You just start that conversation and help them visualize what retirement will look like beyond maybe seeing the grandkids and playing golf or something of that sort. I think that that's so impactful, because retirement is a huge transition. And, you and I both know this very well, that you might live another 30 years. And so maybe retirement can be
Right.
reframed that, hey, like you said, you built an empire, you're this executive, you have so much wealth in the way of like wisdom and relationships and knowledge. Maybe retirement isn't 100% you're done. Maybe it's 25 to 50% of, raising up the next generation, somebody that's, helping them. You get a lot of that flow experience by coaching a younger person so that they don't have to have the scars on their back from the mistakes you made in your career. Or, for example, I was actually talking to an advisor this morning that their retired parent just started taking like classes at the local university, because he had always wanted to learn,
Yeah.
these things, but he just never had the time because he was traveling for work. So those things, it doesn't have to be this huge, elaborate, elite athlete thing. I've even worked with clients where a woman, her husband passed, and she was very, I wouldn't say fully depressed, but she was very sad because she
Mm.
lost someone that had been her husband that she'd been with for a long time.
Oh, of
We
course.
had some conversations, and she got back into knitting. It seems so basic, but she said that she would lose track of time. She would literally knit an entire thing for her grandkids. And it just was so rewarding to get back in that habit because it's something that she wasn't doing when she was with her husband before he passed. So picking up some of those old habits were passions of hers where she found flow, and it helped her through that transition. And one of the great benefits of flow is you have what's called a spillover effect, where if you're having that, it spills over and creates more energy in your life. So if you're having flow at work, then you spills over into your personal life. So any of us that have kids or partners, you got to save some of that energy for when you go home. And so having those experiences give you that energy to be engaging, so that you're not the irritable, tired, burnout person that none of us
Oh,
want to
yeah.
be.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. So, being in the flow really should bring you happiness. And it really does not matter what it is, right? And can we be very specific, or I should say, very, now I'm blanking out on the word that I want to say, but purposeful. Can we
Right.
be very purposeful about finding our flow? Like in your example, your client who went through, who became a widow and very sad, and of course that's understandable. But for
Right.
her to be able to find something that she used to love and kind of bring it back into her life and allow her to find that flow and help her go through the transition was a big deal. You
Right.
made a great impact on that person. So, Jordan, let's talk about health, right? Is there a connection between health and being in the zone, being in the flow, or are they really not that related? What does your research say?
Yeah, so there is a connection with the fulfillment and like mental health, and I always think about it that when people say like finding your purpose and finding your why, that's such an abstract thought. It's really hard, I
Mhm.
think, for a lot of people if you're not extremely reflective, and you got to spend a lot of time to figure those things out. And that's why I love flow so much, is that it's truly unique to you. And so it's really understanding yourself, like you doing the reflection and looking inside of, well, what truly makes me happy and what truly gives me energy, and where do I lose track of time and where do I love doing those things. And so from a mental health and a fulfillment and a happiness, 100%, I think there's a relationship. There is a relationship. There's a lot of correlation. There's actually a negative correlation against burnout. So burnout is a very big topic right now. A lot of people are having it, and a lot of people are having what actually the academic out of Wharton, Adam Grant, said. He called it languishing. A lot of people are having this feeling of where they're not fully burnt out or unhappy. They're just kind of, for lack of a more eloquent way, they're just blah.
Yeah.
And the way to combat that and combat burnout is to find flow, and all the research says that. And so really understanding what do you do, what tasks and activities at work or at home can you find those moments. So it's definitely that relationship of, from a mental health, it's huge, it's so impactful.
What about wealth? Money, right? So obviously, money is a stressor for some people, and even at a certain amount of wealth, when you have it, it still becomes a stressor to some of those people. It's
Right.
like it's almost funny to say that because I see people's finances all day long,
Right.
and what I found out personally is that there's just a level of wealth that people have, that the happiness level, it's not it's not exponential, meaning once you're above a certain wealth, you make a certain amount of money, your
Hmm.
happiness level is not really tied to that, right? So if it's
Right.
$100,000, your basic needs are fulfilled. Anything above $100,000 doesn't give you the same amount of happiness that you've gotten when you were making 20 to $100,000, right? So
Hmm.
is there a correlation with being able to first find what your passion is, right? What you could be, or I was calling it unique genius,
Right.
and getting in the flow so that you're reaping the rewards.
Right. Yeah. I love the research you're talking about where when you hit that certain income level, it has less of an impact on your happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I always find that such an interesting like just research because they keep retesting it and they inflation adjust it and all those things.
Yes.
And one of the beauties of the research, it shows that money is better at removing the pain instead of less of gaining like happiness and fulfillment, if that makes sense. So it's
Oh,
great of
sure.
removing those stress from you, but it's not as good as adding happiness. That they don't you don't see that huge peak just with if you're a multi-millionaire or billionaire, you don't just see your happiness skyrocket. It
Yeah.
has some almost like a plateau, and so what they call like the hedonic treadmill, and it's where you might buy that car because now that you're making more money, you can buy the Mercedes instead of the Honda Accord. Nothing against the Honda or the Mercedes,
Sure.
but you can still get A to B. Both cars will get you where you need to go in a safe manner. It's just one's $100,000 car. One is depending on which one you buy, it's $40,000, $50,000 car. Um, it's just a different way of getting there, but at the same time, it might give you a quick peak of fulfillment, but it's gonna be now the next thing you're gonna like, all right, well now I have the Mercedes
Now
car,
what?
I need the G Wagon or I need the
Sure.
Aston Martin, and it's gonna do the
Yes.
same thing. It'll give you a quick peak and it's gonna level out. And so from the wealth side of it, it just really shows having those experiences and having less of a tangible thing and you're doing something that's a moment that you remember maybe with people that you care about or traveling by yourself also. I've heard so many positive benefits from that, but doing things that is an experience and it ties directly into flow because I actually just wrote a piece about this and it was talking about to truly be fulfilled, you need to be actively engaged in life. You don't find fulfillment by those idle moments, by just, acquiring a new tangible thing. Yeah, you can have those kinds of goals where, you work hard and you want to buy yourself this. That is completely fine. But some of the deeper and longer lasting fulfillment is by being actively engaged, doing those experiences, spending that time with the ones you loved, or spending time doing what you find most fulfilling.
Right. So I love it, Jordan. So I want to show you something here. As I hear you talk, so I have this little sticker. I'm going to need to kind of put it up there. Anyway, it says, be in the moment. I don't know if you see that, but that's my, I live by that because exactly what you just said. And I have found that being in the moment is very, very important in my quality of life.
Great.
That it is not money that makes a huge difference in my happiness level, but being engaged in the moment
Hmm.
and being engaged with the people that I'm with. And that has, for me personally, paid tenfold, if not a heck of a lot more.
That's
And
awesome.
hearing you talk about that as it relates to flow makes me feel great. So that's super awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people will call it, being present or,
Yes.
staying present with what's going on. I've seen so much benefit with that even personally, I've noticed things where I have two young children, and if I just put my phone away and not even like check it, of course, work can ping all of us Slack or emails just constantly coming through all
Oh
day
yeah.
long. But whenever
Yes.
it's time to put my child to bed, if I just completely take off my watch, can leave my phone, I feel like even your kids notice it. That when you're
Oh sure.
present and you're fully engaged, and I 100% notice the behavior in my children, that they know that I'm engaged and I'm being present. And I think just small stuff like that of being present is so powerful. I mean, I love that you have it there every day, because I think that I'm a sticky note kind of person, and I'll put it on one of my screens. But I think it's so true, and that's all about being engaged, being present. You're not thinking about something else. There's a lot of things in this world that are always going on, and if you're engaged in doing, focused in what the moment is and what you're doing, it's so much more fulfillment.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head when you say your kids feel it, your kids
Hmm.
know it, right? And now in our day and age, when I was growing up, we did not have cell phones, right? You know that. And we didn't even have, these Apple Watches where it vibrates every time you get an
Oh
email or
yeah.
something or notifies you or whatever. So you just need to throw the darn thing away to get a little bit of break. If you're on the phone and you're at a restaurant and I'm sure you see this and people see this all the time, right? What happened to just sitting there and staring at each other?
It's so
Because
true.
then,
Yeah.
right now, what I see is like this. You have, oh, so they're both right across from each other, but they have their screens in front of them. And of course, I'm guilty of that from time to time, where I have to kind of look down on my phone and check it out. But I find it very interesting what you said about kids, because
Hmm.
I do know with my two girls that they know, you cannot trick kids,
Right.
and having you engage makes a huge difference for both
And that's
you and them.
I
Yeah.
completely agree with you, and that's something I was recently like just getting the idea out, and I wrote about it, and I was thinking of it just in the aspect of, how do I relate flow to more people?
Mm.
And I was actually this in a weekend, I took my son to the playground right up from our neighborhood, and he's just so absorbed in the moment and just wanting to climb everything, and he's just so happy. And that's truly what flow is. And that's that fulfillment and happiness that they're getting, that absorption in the activity. That's literally part of the definition of flow. That's one of the core pieces of flow. And so I loved it, and I talk about it from like a children's aspect, is if you just step back and just watch kids play,
Yeah.
they are not worried about anything else in the world. They
Yes.
could be without shoes, they could not have a shirt on, whatever it is, they are
Mm.
completely absorbed in that activity and so happy. And that's truly, if we could transition some of that as an adult, how do we remove all of those things from our consciousness and focus on it? We're so much more fulfilled and just happier doing those things.
Absolutely. And I'm going to challenge anyone who's watching us or listening to us that when was the last time you purposely got yourself doing something that you love and not think about anything else outside of that? So, yeah, that's a question for you too. Maybe you can answer, right? Not that I'm putting
Right.
you on the spot.
No, I actually, because I do what I like to call, I say that I do a little me search while I'm doing my
Sure.
research. Is, you
Mm,
test it out on myself. Why not? See if it actually fits with me first before I'll use myself as the guinea pig. But I actually, being a past basketball player, I gained so much fulfillment by playing sports. And then I transitioned out of, I've actually talked to other great college athletes that were much better athletes than me. And they said that that transition from playing, they had this like drop off of like happiness after playing, because they were trying to find, where do they find those flow experiences? And we see that a lot with pro athletes when they leave. If they don't
mm.
have another job lined up that they're enjoying, they'll either spend all of their money. I mean, we all know
Oh,
the
you're
research
right.
on how many file for bankruptcy in just, under a few years. And so for me to be purposeful about it, I actually started shooting basketball, because I don't play anymore, at least once a week. I just go to the local Y and I'll shoot, because it's something I can't have my phone. I usually will have either headphones in for music or things like that, or I just won't have nothing. And it's me
Right.
alone. I'll take my lunch break and go for just 30 minutes. And it's made a huge impact in my life. It's very small, and but that is the last thing that I've been really purposeful about doing because as long as I can still play, my father played till he was in his mid 70s. Well, at least
Oh,
shot
wow.
basketball.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hopefully I can live up to those standards. But it definitely made an impact of just getting some time to do that, being purposeful about it during the day. And I literally do it on Fridays at lunchtime. I just go do it, and it's been great.
I love it. I'm so happy that you're doing that for yourself. And I hope that by us talking about this, that we're going to inspire some people listening here to do the same thing for themselves. And I want to share with you what I did recently.
Yeah,
I have decided that I played volleyball for my school back in the day. That was many many moons ago, and I loved it. I was in the flow when I was playing ball, and I did it every day after school. I trained. We competed. My
right.
university always most of the time we were top. So I love it. But I stopped doing it because life happens, right? I
100%.
migrated to the U.S. I got kids. I mean I got married, my career, the whole shebang,
Hmm.
and more recently, I said to myself, I want to get back into doing something that I really, really love. Not that I don't love what I do, nor my kids. I love, as you all know,
Right,
if you know me, you know how much I love my kids and what I do.
right,
But this is for me. This is just for me. So I signed up for a volleyball league for adults, right? I'm thinking
right,
I'm crazy because I am in the worst shape of my life, but I'm going to do this. But Jordan, I am determined to make it work because I want to get back in that zone for myself.
right,
And since doing that, to make myself accountable for this, the league starts in a month, exactly a month from today, actually. I have been working out like crazy. Because you know why? I'm not going out there in a month and getting creamed by
right,
same adults, same age adults. That's not happening. So for me, that is a way that I've found work for me to set a deadline. I'm setting a deadline to get
right,
out there and do it. So I'm doing two things at once. One is getting myself out there to do what I always loved, and two is getting myself back in shape, right? Because COVID and everything just kind of puts a damper in a lot of things.
100%.
So I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. So Jordan, you and I could probably talk about this all day long. Um, but unfortunately, we'll have to cut this. So if there are any questions or anyone's interested to learn about flow, they want to get in touch with you. Are you okay with that? How do they do it? Where do they find you?
Yeah. So the best way to find me, I would say, is just on LinkedIn. Is I currently don't have a website yet. I'm in the process of building that because I want people to have more access to some of the things that I'm putting out and some
Very
of my
nice.
research. But I would say LinkedIn, Jordan Hutchison. It's there's not many of us out there, but yeah. So I LinkedIn Jordan Hutchison. You'll be able to find me. Search, and I'm happy connect with me or send me messages. I'm happy to have a conversation about it. That's actually one of the my most fulfilling and passionate things is especially when I've spoken to universities, I tell all of the students, reach out. I am happy to tell you more about the industry, tell you about my research and help just give some guidance because I always wanted that when I was in my early in my career. So I'm
Oh,
happy
yes.
to answer any questions if anyone wants to reach out.
Thank you for offering that. And next time I'm at UNF, because I do teach some insurance classes there,
Oh,
and
nice.
I will mention that they can find this person named Jordan Hutchinson and ask him about flow. And if anyone's listening, and I'm sure if you are connected with me through LinkedIn, Jordan is my friend on LinkedIn as well. So you may connect that way if you can't for whatever reason can't find him. So
Yeah.
Jordan, I truly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
I always
Thank you
enjoy
for
talking to you, Peachy. I do.
I appreciate it, Jordan, and I look forward to the next time we connect.
Sounds great.
All right. Bye bye. Information shared during the show are opinions of the speakers. They are not legal, financial, or tax advice specific to you. Consult your own specialist, attorney, accountant, financial planner, or insurance advisor for your specific situation.